Welcome back to the NFL Alumni Lounge, and I am very excited. Today, we have 10-year NFL alumni. I give him more than that because this man, the football career that he's had is incredible. Mr. Nick Ferguson, and now our favorite broadcaster out in Denver, Colorado on 104.3 The Fan. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
You know, you get me gassed up every week on Fridays. You know what you drop on social media.
Yeah. It's Big Fun Fridays, man.
Big Fun Fridays. I love that.
Yeah.
So we're coming off a not so fun Monday night debut for the Broncos. Denver's hearts were broken last night. What did you take out of that game?
Well, man, I didn't really know what to expect considering that there was no offseason, no mini camps, and there was no preseason games. So, I mean, I try to temper my expectations very slightly. I knew it was going to be a difficult game, but I did not know what we found out on Monday night that the game ended up coming down to, which was the fact that Coach Fangio did not use his timeouts, man.
No.
And like, you have three of them. They give you three of them every quarter. Use them.
Yeah. I mean, that was the name of the game last night, and everybody's been talking about clock management. And we know there was no preseason, right? But it's like, as an NFL vet, you scratch your head with that. Where's the clock management?
You know what? That's the biggest thing, and you're right. It was a trending topic, and in this day and age with social media, you never want to be a trending topic for the wrong reason. Right. Coach Fangio was definitely a trending topic, but most people were kind of making excuses, justifications, as I call it, for Coach Fangio, saying, well, he was trying to hold on to those timeouts, hoping that Gostkowski would miss another field goal. I'm like, you can't do that. You can't play the game that way. And no one is though, man, Charlie, this is a guy who has over 40 plus years coaching in the NFL. You cannot make that mistake.
Now, on a positive side of things for the Broncos, because it was almost a win against a team that was a big playoff powerhouse last year. Mr. Jeudy makes his debut as a guy that played DB, safety, his whole life. What did you think of the footwork that we saw there? What are your expectations for him this season?
Well, I thought the footwork was great. I'm one of those guys, I love football, so I watched it when he was at Alabama. So I wasn't really surprised at what I was seeing. Now, when Jeudy came here for training camp, the media was like, oh, my God, it was great. Look at the footwork. I'm like, if you watch him in college, you would know that this is a part of his game because he's well coached. Now, he had those two drops, one in the fourth, which I know he was definitely frustrated about making those drops. And this is something that he never does, but this happens as every player starts to learn how to play in the NFL. So he'll bounce back from that. But I have high expectations for this kid. Just watching some of the plays he made last night when both he and Drew Lock were able to connect and what he did running after the ball. And once Cortland Sutton comes back, it's going to change how defensive coordinators can actually isolate and on certain guys. So the ceiling is pretty high for Jerry Jeudy.
Absolutely. What do you think of Drew Lock? What are your expectations for the young quarterback? And what did you like from him last night?
Well, he showed patience and poise, and that was always great, in the young quarterback. And this was his sixth game because last season, 5 games, 4-1 that start. And once again, we were all wondering, well, what was going to be like for Drew Lock playing with the new offensive coordinator and the new system and being one of the younger teams offensively in the NFL. And for me, Charlie, when I was watching last night, I don't care about the arm strength because most people talk about, hey, quarterbacks have a strong arm. Okay, that's okay. I wanted to watch his footwork. And what I'm still seeing that showed up last year, happened in training camp, and happened last night is he has a tendency to stare down wide receivers. There was a moment in the game where he almost took a sack, but the ball was deflected because he never decided to step up in the pocket. And to me, as young quarterbacks, you have to learn how to do it. Last season, Joe Flacco had the same issue, shotgun formation, and never stepped up in the pocket. So this is where Drew Lock has to grow up as a quarterback, and this is where Pat Shurmur has to change the play calls to make him, look great from his skill set.
And when you look at that division, when you look at the AFC West, we joke around a lot about the AFC West, right? I come from a Raider background. You got that terrible Bronco love in your heart. So when we talk about the AFC West, the defending champs are there, and they're not looking like they're going to be anything less powerful this year. How do you look at the AFC West, and what do you see for the Broncos this season?
Well, to be totally honest, man, I see them finishing at the bottom. And I know most Broncos fans wouldn't want me to say that, but I'm being realistic. I mean, you lose Von Miller. Cortland Sutton is out with the AC joint. He should return. Then last night, A.J. Boye went out with a shoulder injury. Phillip Lindsay with a foot injury. These are not the things that you want to hear from a Broncos standpoint. And you talked about it. Kansas City, they're not going anywhere. I mean, we watched them, on Thursday night, and Patrick Mahomes did not lose a step, but they added another weapon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that's going to make things very difficult. And even though, you and I have our differences, I know you're a long-time Raiders fan, I still have the Raiders up there, and you can flip-flop them if you want to, who's going to be number one, who's going to be two, who's going to be three, them or the Chargers. But I just look at, both rosters. I mean, we watch Josh Jacobs rush for 3 touchdowns this past weekend.
Yeah.
They're not going to slow down. Now, I have to ask you a question, because most Raiders fans I talk to, they love the Raiders, but they don't love Derek Carr. And I'm still a Derek Carr fan, regardless of what people say. But if he can continue to play the way that he's playing, hand the ball off and don't turn it over, the Raiders definitely have a chance.
Yeah, I think so. I think they could edge out the Chargers for the number 2 spot. Carr, the thing that frustrates fans about Carr is I think he's quick on the trigger with the dump passes. Ever since the leg injury, like you saw, we were seeing in 2016 a guy that was flying all over the place. He was running. There was no fear. There was no hesitation in him. I hope that's something he can get back in his game. He's got endless weapons right now. So, I mean, you got to work with those weapons. You got one of the best running backs in the NFL. Your receiving core is tops in the league. Your tight end is out of this world. He's got weapons. You got to use them. Now, COVID's got me a little stir crazy. You can't travel as much. I want to talk travel. Let's go international. Let's talk the Fire. And your career, man, really, as an NFL alumni guy, you're someone that I admire to the highest level. You came out of college undrafted. You went overseas. You went to Canada. You've experienced football all over the globe. And then you come and do a decade in the NFL. That's a man whose heart can't be questioned, determination, skill can't be questioned. Talk a little about your journey. What was that like leaving college? And then tell us about your time in NFL Europe.
It's funny. Every time I hear people kind of give the background of my story, I sit here and I marvel at it, because sometimes I can't believe it. But Charlie, it's a story of perseverance.
Yeah.
And that is the message I try to carry forth. And every year we see young guys coming into the NFL. Some of those guys are undrafted or they drafted late. And those guys think that they can't make it in the league to have a successful career and maybe even play 9 or 10 years. But it's possible. Obviously, there's some other dynamics that factor in as far as health and being healthy to go out there and play. But it's that perseverance. And life, we're all going to feel as though we have those 4 walls closing in on us, people telling us what we can't do, what's not possible. We can't allow them to put limitations on us. So for me, I started out at Morris Brown College in Atlanta, because in high school, I had a possible scholarship to Youngstown University in Ohio, but my test scores didn't come back in time to sign the scholarship.
Wow.
So I was left out in the cold like, well, what am I going to do? I could decide to stay home in Miami or try to push forward. And staying home in Miami, I love my upbringing. I love what it's done for me and the type of person it's created. But it wasn't an environment that was conducive for me to be successful, because in my neighborhood, there were only a couple of things that you figure that can actually happen in your life. And one of those, and it's sad to say this, that it was, I'm going to be a street pharmaceutical rep.
Right.
And what that means is, that's a drug dealer, because those were the celebrities we saw at that time, or it was, dead or in jail. Mm-hmm. And I saw that happen to too many people. I said, well, that's not the life I want for myself. And this is something I did, Charlie, that really helped me. At a young age, I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about a family, 12 to 15 years down the road. What would I want to give back to my kids? So that kind of changed my course. I went to Morris Brown, and I conquered that. I got freshman of the year. Then I realized that, my life and what my aspirations was bigger than Morris Brown. So I said, well, where else can I take my talent? And then there was a school which was about maybe 15 miles away. It was Georgia Tech. So I had to find a way to get myself into that school. And I used to either walk or bum rides to get to the school because I wanted to see what the campus like. I wanted to see what was big college football, was like. And I remember this. The first time I got on the campus, the football team was walking to practice. And me not knowing, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll just walk and see if I can watch practice. Then I was stopped at the gate. And someone asked me, like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to watch practice. And they're like, are you a student here? I'm like, no. And they're like, first of all, you can't watch practice because you're not a student here, right? And two, you're not a part of the football team. And they asked me, well, where do you go to school? And I said, Morris Brown College. And I could see the look on their face like, yeah, okay, whatever, man.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? From that point on, I said, I'm going to transfer, get into Georgia Tech, and I'm going to prove that person wrong. And here's the weird thing about it. The person who I had the conversation with, he was the head athletic trainer at Georgia Tech, right?
Wow.
Yes, he was the head athletic trainer at Georgia Tech. And my whole time at Tech, I said I was not only going to prove him wrong, but the Morris Brown coaches wrong because they were upset that I transferred. But here's the crazy part about it. When I was at Morris Brown, they didn't have a scholarship for me, Charlie. I walked on the Morris Brown football team.
What?
Yes. And I was asking them, I said, hey, listen, I got freshman of the year, so now give me a scholarship. And they were like, well, we don't have any money. So that's when I started to pursue Georgia Tech. Now, it wasn't until the summer that I received my acceptance letter from Georgia Tech. And as fate would have it, the moment I decided to open up the letter, the phone rings. It is the coaches from Morris Brown telling me that they found money for me and not to transfer to Georgia Tech. But I said, it's too late.
Wow.
And they're like, wait a minute, you're going to have to pay to go to school. And there's not going to be a chance that you're going to actually make the team and actually play. So that only further frustrated me and made me more angry to prove them wrong. So it's crazy how this thing works in life because there's always something to kind of push you forward when people are trying to squash you down. Mm-hmm. So first, Morris Brown coaches couldn't find money for me. Then they did. Then when I got to Georgia Tech, I had the head athletic trainer tell me that, hey, basically he didn't think I was going to make it here at Georgia Tech. And good luck pretty much being at Morris Brown. Wow. So I took all that frustration and I just put it up in a ball and I put it inside of me and it made me one heck of a player. Okay. So when people saw me play and they're like, dude, you're not really a real big guy to play as physical as you play. And to me, I was harnessing all that negativity and I was letting it unleash on the field. So it is an amazing story when I look back at it. And I still say today, Charlie, like, how did I do that?
It's one of the most inspiring stories. It's really one of the most inspiring stories you're going to come across in NFL alumni. And what you did was you took all that, and no pun intended, but it lit the fire in your stomach. Yeah. And it really, that fueled you. So now the kid that grows up in Miami and that has this fighting spirit in him, what is it like? Our friends at 503 Sports send us these shirts, but the story behind this league and how many careers it created, what is it like for you now? You wake up in Europe? What's going on?
That was strange, man. I never really thought as a kid growing up in Miami, one, I would end up at a Power 5 school. Two, I didn't think I was going to go to Canada and then taking a trip to Europe. I mean, right. Dude, that was a blast, but it definitely helped me out. And that league actually spawned the careers of several players. Yep. And I'm a little disappointed that it's no longer around because there are a lot of players who are like Nick Ferguson who needed those leagues to actually continue their career so people could see them. So, being with the Ryan Fire, man, it was awesome. It took me to different places. That was when I was really able to express myself and open up and become the person I am now because, they embrace me. They embrace kind of the oddities and the uniqueness, or as people would say, well, Nick, you're very weird. I'm like, no, I'm not weird. I'm very unique.
That's right? Just my face paint right here.
Yeah. So they allowed me to paint my face. And I'll tell you this, the first time I painted my face, I actually paid for someone to paint it. So, So the GM at the time for the Fire, he saw me paint my face and he saw how the fans reacted to it. So they started paying for it. Yes. They started paying for it. And then I just saw it develop into this trend. And some of my teammates were like, man, you are crazy. Because at that time, Brian Baldinger, who's now on the network, he was just starting out in broadcasting. And he used to love to see my face painted up. And it allowed him to talk about it. So it gave me more face time, because everyone wanted to see what was this kid going to do with his face the next game. So it was so great for me. I am thankful for playing in NFL Europe. I'm thankful for everything that the Ryan Fire was able to give to me, because they helped bring life to Nick Ferguson. And you talked about that fire, right?
Yeah.
The Ryan Fire. It lit a fire under me to say, once again, no matter what obstacles come your way and how people try to squash you down and put you in this box, you don't have to be in that box. You can always break out of that box. And I got to thank the Fire and NFL Europe for that.
Absolutely. And it was cool. They were those NFL Europe teams, you could play on Madden with them. It was a whole thing, and fans were really taken to it. We just saw the XFL in their second chance. It folded, and now The Rock's at the helm. We'll see what happens. But we're in this COVID era, right, where I keep thinking about these high school players that aren't getting seen by colleges. I keep thinking about these college guys that could have become stars and aren't getting the opportunities, and people aren't going to see. How important do you think it is that we find a secondary league that can work as a nice grooming, opportunity for these guys?
I think it's real important. I thought the XFL coming back after 20-odd years, it was great. I love the product that they were putting up. It gave players another opportunity for people to actually see them, because in the game of football, the way it works, it's like your football film is your resume.
Right.
If you don't have any film, coaches are going to move along to the next guy. And I'm happy that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has taken over the XFL, because he's done a great job with his movie ventures and his kind of TV shows. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with his league. Obviously, the way the fans responded to it told us that they still love spring type of football. And I think he should work out something with the league, because if the XFL can be a farming league for them as though NFL Europe was, it's great, because once again, we're still dealing in this COVID era. We don't know what's going to happen in 2021. So if you can have a league that's playing in the spring and you can dip your toe in that pool and pull some of those guys up, it makes things a lot interesting. And from a business standpoint, put your GM hat on for a second. Teams have had to overspend for certain players because there were no other guys who can fill those shoes. Yep. But if there's another league where you can have guys that you can, pull them out of that league, you're not overspending for talent. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. I would never take anything away from the kid, but just think about it. The salaries are escalating, and the salary caps are not going that high. So it's going to run out to a point where you're going to run out of money potentially to pay all these top players.
Absolutely.
So I think the Farmer League system would be great, and hopefully the XFL proves to be that.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully things start looking up, maybe a mile high for all you folks out in Denver, but don't put your money on it. Nick, man, thank you so much for taking the time out. And I'm sure we'll catch up throughout the year. And guys, be sure to catch Nick, 104.3 The Fan out in Denver. Nick, thank you, man.
Thank you.